There we go.
That's it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the full Barnoldswick Town Council meeting. Before we begin, can I just ask everyone to make sure their phones are silent or turned off? Thank you very much. Apologies for absence.
Lindsay.
Do you have any declaration of interest? We do have a couple of urgent items we need to discuss before we get into the full agenda. So if we can start off with the watering of the flower baskets, I think would be the first one, wouldn't it? David?
Yes, Chairman. Whilst Joe was off, the current contractor for the watering and the putting up and the taking down of hanging baskets got in touch to say that regrettably due to ill health he wouldn't be able to fulfil the contract this year. Generally the baskets and the planters go up at the end of May, perhaps beginning of June. They go through till October when they come down, and the contractor waters them on a twice weekly basis, or more if necessary, over the summer period. There's probably three options, main options. The first option I don't think is practicable, in that we could say, well, we won't have the hanging baskets and planters. However, they've already been ordered and the plants are growing, and we'd probably have to, we would have to pay for that work anyway, so I don't really think that's much of an option. The second option would be to put the work out to tender, see whether we can get a fresh contractor to do it. And the third option would be to see if we could do the work in-house, having got a handy person stroke gardener on the books. It would be possible to do that in conjunction with using casual labour for the putting up and the taking down, which is quite a big job, and previously has been charged for in addition to the watering, so it's sort of two separate bits really. My suggestion, Chairman, is that for tonight, I think we need to know the position. I think we should thank Mark Bell for the work that he's done with the watering, because he's treated them like his little babies, and he's nurtured the plants and fed regularly, and that makes quite a significant difference to how well they do. And then as far as the future's concerned, I think we need to just evaluate the two options to see what's the best course, and if we delegate authority to Joe to make a decision, if we need to make a decision before the next meeting of the council, which is in May, then that can be got on with. So the delegation to Joe could be in consultation with yourself, Chairman, Chairman of GP, and obviously consult all the membership as we normally do. So that would be my proposal. Evaluate the two options, delegate to Joe,
Okay.
circulate to all.
Anybody else got anything to say?
Second.
Okay.
It's clicking, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, clicking on the table, I'm sorry, it'll be really annoying for everybody.
That's okay. So Jodie's seconding.
That's okay.
David, all those in favour for that?
Yeah.
So that's good. Moving on then to the second one, which is the Artisan Markets. Again, David, do you want to?
I'm more than happy for
Joe.
to take it.
He's sent us through his agreement that he currently has with Skipton Town Council, which I've had a look through. There doesn't seem to be anything like out the ordinary in it. So what we need to do is sort of make him an agreement, but it's the terms of that really need deciding. So could we know what we've discussed it today, so it's a reasonable amount that he's looking to pay and is happy to pay what's in the contract over there.
Right.
I think some of the detail needs working out, as in like if they're using our stores or electric or whatever else. I think some extra bits need putting in, but I think that could be done outside this meeting. It's not a huge mess.
Councillor.
Yeah, Chairman, we discussed the principle of this at the last meeting, and we referred it to a working group and a committee. The committee won't meet until after the date of the first market, so we need to have a way of getting through it. Chairman, my understanding is that in discussion with the clerk, the market operator is willing to pay a fee of licence fee of £75, which my proposal would be that we agree that subject to a 6-month review, and you will see how it's going. You know, if it's a wonderful thing, takes off fantastically, you know, it may be possible to increase the fee. As for electric, again, I think review it in 6 months, but for the time being, just include it within the 75. I don't think there's any necessity for our stalls, you know, the hardware being used, but I think if that became the case, then there would need to be perhaps an additional charge for that. So propose that we agree 75 as a licence fee, and that we delegate authority to Joe to conclude the agreement on the lines indicated.
Okay. Chris, second that. Yeah. All those in favour of the agreement? Thank you. Onwards and upwards. Open forum. There's nobody in the room right now. We'll move it to later on in the agenda to see if there's anybody on YouTube. Item 4, then minutes of the last meeting. Is there anything to comment on the minutes?
Move them.
Move them. All those in favour? Item 5, committee and working group reports. To review the minutes of committee working groups held since the last meeting. So item 5A for allotments. Anyone got anything to speak about for allotments? Happy to move them.
I'll move them, Chair. Nothing really more.
Thank you. All in favour, say yeah.
Just so you know, we've got rid of at least 6 people on the waiting list today.
Very good. Item 5B is a town meeting the 2nd of March. Anybody to anything to say on item 5B? Happy to move?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All those in favour of moving item 5B? Down at the bottom there, we're okay. Thank you. Just checking. In the room, Councillor Hurst. Item 6, finances, which have been attached. Anybody got any comments on the finances? Councillor Witt.
Chairman, happy to move the acceptance of the payments and this and that and the other, and the proposal that we delegate authority to the clerk to make payments prior to the next meeting. Looking at the budget sheet, which is the first page in the in this item. There's a quirk which relates to several items, and it's that there's a requirement for any salary costs, any wages, to be identified on a separate line. That's fine, except that some of the work that's undertaken is actually funded from other budgets. So, for instance, for a lot of last summer, we had a handy person who was busy painting benches, doing benches up, and the cost of that essentially is in the salary line, in the wages line, and it appears that we haven't spent very much on benches because it's in a different line on the budget. And similarly, last summer, we had the tables and chairs being put out on the square, which wasn't intended to be sort of paid for out of the salary line. It was the sort of backing barley line there. And finally, we've got the markets line where we've had casual staff putting the market stalls up and down. But again, it only appears we spent £301.69 on the market. So, given that we need to cover the salary line, and we've got these budgets that really it should have been allocated to, but because we can't do it that way, the sensible thing to do is to via money from those budget lines to cover the appropriate costs within the salary line. So, discussing it with Joe today, in terms of the putting out the tables and chairs, that was at a cost of £2,632. So the proposal is that we move £2,632 from backing barley into the salary line. Similarly, with the benches, we've just got over £2,403 in that budget, so to via £2,403 into the salary line. And then lastly, in terms of the market line, to via £2,549 into the salary line. That then brings that salary line up to the actual expenditure, and more properly allocates the funding from where it was intended to come from in the first place. So I think I've got the figures right, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. But,
yeah, that's right, I've written them down.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody? Councillor Hurd,
Second that.
Second, okay. All in favour, say aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is good. Item 7, to review matters relating to internal audit. Appointment of the internal auditor. Item 7A.
Just basically saying that the reason that we're picking the internal auditors that we are is that they are completely independent and knows it's not like one of our relatives or anything. To make sure that they do the proper check. They've done it for the last 2 years, seem to be incredibly thorough and competent. So the proposal is that we use them back again.
Okay. All in favour of
Move that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favour. Item B, 7B, the risk assessment schedule. This is the same as what it is.
Generic.
Anybody, somebody want 7C, effectiveness of the internal audit.
So it's basically what we want them to check. It's a standard.
It's a standard agreement, isn't it?
Yeah. It's an industry.
Councillor Whip.
Yeah, Chairman, the real reason we have to have this meeting, because we didn't used to have a meeting in April, but the reason why we have to have it is that 3 or 4 years ago, the internal auditor said, well, you need to do these things after the end of the year. And we did them 1 year, sort of like on the 31st of March, and that wouldn't do. And we really got sort of twazzled in the bureaucracy, not the bureaucracy, but the red tape stuff. So we've got effectively boring items on the agenda because there's a requirement for us to do it. And by doing it early in the financial year, it allows Joe to get the audit completed and signed off in good time. So in terms of...
my year end today. Sorry.
She did have to find £1.32.
£1.32. Yorkshire Bank and processed 3 cheques wrong by pence, and I had cross-tick all February and March. I like that. Sorry, I've done it, but I'm happy now. I'll sleep better.
Anyway,
No, they can't.
you can't
It's
do
a penny.
so sorry, Chairman, as far as the review of internal audit is concerned, I think we've got a document there, and I think we can tick all those boxes.
Yeah, it's a standard document.
Yeah.
So I would propose that we agree that we have an effective system in place.
We do agree. All that seconded by Councillor Scripton. All in favour of that, say yes. Thank you very much. Item 8 is the asset register. To approve the asset register updated 31st of March 2022. I don't see anything on here that's out of the ordinary, if anybody does.
We took the white chairs off this year, and then we've added a few items this year. Now, there are some items that are going to get transferred to us, but as the point when I wrote this, we didn't have them, and we don't have a count on them.
Councillor Whip.
Yes, Chairman, and it's that last point, really. There was an amount of event equipment that the Town Council inherited when we took on the pavilion, and that's never really adequately been reflected in the asset register. I've been nattering Pendle for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now, for them to sort of formally community asset transfer that equipment. And Joe has received an email within the last week, since this was produced, to say, yes, we agree that that equipment has been community transferred to the Town Council. They haven't yet done sort of formal documentation, but I don't know, I mean, it goes in a nil figure, but it really needs to be in, I think.
We can't add it unless we've ownership of it. We haven't got the documents to say
Well, we've got an email that says, yes, it is yours.
It's in our possession.
It's only got a pound on it though. It wouldn't give us any value, so.
No. My concern is that, I mean, some of this equipment is the electrical distribution equipment, so there's a potential liability issue in the sense that if, you know, there is an injury through its use, would it be Pendle Council, would it be Barnoldswick Town Council? I think that needs clarity.
I think
We've been doing the electrical, you know, we've been getting it tested, so it really should be on our books.
I'm not sure we can add it to our books until we've legally transferred it.
Well,
And that is catch-22, isn't it? And if something does happen in the meantime and we haven't legally been transferred it, we're not legally the owners.
well,
It's one of them, isn't it? Has anyone got any suggestions on those items?
Chairman, it's been we've been in this position for several years, so it's no different to where it was 12 months ago, or 24 months ago, 36 months ago. I'm content to sort of leave it, but
Yeah.
It's pat testing, it's it?
Do you want to add them to the
No.
I mean, I would just have a generic line in there that said event equipment community asset transferred from PVC.
We haven't got it yet, so I can't put dates on it.
Councillor Whip?
We have as well purchased items that adds to that kit, which we do own. I mean, we've bought cables. Well, the cables are the big thing, which we did for the market.
I don't know.
We've got market lighting, floodlights.
Well, that's what I've put it in as, because I
Yeah.
didn't understand what they actually said.
Yeah.
How much was it? There's a number of things on there were all bought within that period of time. Floodlights market, they're not actual lights, they're cables.
That's the case.
When I asked if it's to do with the floodlights, I just wrote floodlights. And I sometimes
So maybe
wonder
that
if
needs amending
cables actually are consumables, really. No?
Not these type of cables.
How much were they?
Well, I don't know. If you bought them outright, they'd be quite expensive, but because I made them up myself, they're not as expensive.
I think that's what they are.
I
but
mean,
they
the connector ends themselves are £15 each. And then you have the cost of the cable, which is high rated stuff as well.
So we're saying that the market floodlights is actually the cables for the market, it's not
Yeah.
the floodlights.
We think so.
Yeah.
So that's the type
Floodlights and cabling.
Yeah, we just need to correct that, that's all. Okay. Councillor Whip, again?
The other stuff, which again is subject to transfer from Pendle, is the new up the pole planters, which have been erected. They're due to be transferred. The tables and chairs, which referred to the previous item, which
They're not ours,
they're going to transfer them to us. And the other thing, again, which is to come from Pendle to us, is the stage.
It's the stage is on it.
No, it's not.
No.
the lights
Oh, the
are.
legs are.
These are only the legs,
So,
which
We
do
bought lights.
supplement.
right,
We bought lights.
so it's the same issue, isn't it? If we don't have the legal ownership, we can't put it on our asset register.
Well, I think it's a case of asking Pendle
We need to push Pendle again.
Yes,
That's what it is. So
Sounds great.
we can have a resolution for that, can we?
I'd move that.
Anyone can second that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. All those in favour of that?
Don't put my hand up then.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was almost confusing. Item number 9 is the registration of resignation of town councillors. This is to advise councillors that Councillor Ken Hartley and Councillor Jane Mills have written to the clerk to tender their resignation from the council effective immediately. The notices of vacancies for both are now displayed in the town council notice boards.
Jane's been missed, and I've had to chase them, and it's on the computer to put out tomorrow. It's dated tomorrow.
Okay. Councillor Whip, Tom.
Chairman, I'd like to, well, first of all, both Ken and Jane have been on the town council a long time. They've overseen a lot of the things we do. They've been helping out at events. So I'd like to move that we thank them formally as a council for their long service and wish them well wherever they choose to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I second that, Chairman.
You can.
Both Ken and Jane are former chairman of the council, and in the different ways they've got a lot into the town council, and both of them will be missed. It's just unfortunate that Ken's health is not as good as he would have wished, and that Jane is tearing her hair out, running a shop, essentially.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've been thanked Ken and Jane personally as well. I do think as a council we can thank them, definitely. Item number 10 is a request from Children and Families Wellbeing Service to use Victory Park on the 5th of August, 12th of August, 19th of August and the 26th of August from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. to run sessions for families. Councillor Tomlin.
Move that we let them.
Councillor Hurd.
Second that.
All those in favour of that? Finally, item 11, correspondence for items of information. Anybody got any correspondence?
Yeah.
Information?
I've had a request from Yorkshire Water. It's not, I could have probably just read it. They want to remove this to do some work at sewerage work so they can get around the bend. Tom's talked to them today. They will reinstate it, hopefully not as is. It's in a state.
Prime habitat for small birds.
Well, okay, so they're going to reinstate it after the works, but they can't get what they need to get down there unless we allow it. It's our sewerage works. Just to advise you.
Move we note that.
Absolutely.
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you very much.
I'll
All in
email
favour?
them tomorrow.
Have we had anything from the live feed, Tom? Any comments or questions?
Not that I can see.
Just end this the meeting.
Thank you.
At record time, I might add. Thank you all very much for attending this evening, and I'll see you next month.
It was only meant to,